Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about the Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program and the recently announced project selections. My name is Kelly Cummins, and I am the Acting Director of the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, or OSED, as we commonly call it. Next slide. Before we begin this session, I wanted to go over a few webinar logistics. You can turn on live captions by clicking on Captions in your control panel. To turn on Spanish or ASL interpretation, please click on the Interpretation button in your control panel. Finally, you'll be able to find a recording of this webinar and a copy of the presentation slides on our website in the next few days. My team and I are so pleased to be speaking with you today about the carbon capture large-scale pilot projects that we have selected to enter into award negotiations. We at OSED are eager to share more about the program and the potential of these carbon capture pilots. In this briefing, we will discuss key information for each of the 4 selected projects. We also want to explain what you can expect next, including upcoming opportunities for engagement and more information about our negotiations process. While we're not taking questions today, we invite you to share your perspective and feedback through the email address we will provide at the end of this presentation. OSED will also be co-hosting 4 additional virtual community briefings for each of the selected projects to hear directly from local communities. Details will be shared later in this webinar. The United States is committed to addressing the climate crisis and leading the global energy transition, which is why President Biden set ambitious goals for our nation to achieve a net zero economy by 2050. Large-scale deployment of carbon management technologies is critical to addressing the climate crisis and achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Reaching our nation's energy transition goals will require capturing and storing 400 to 1,800 million metric tons of carbon dioxide annually by 2050 through both point source carbon capture, utilization and storage, and also carbon dioxide removal. The bipartisan infrastructure law provided $937 million for carbon capture large-scale pilot projects designed to accelerate the development, deployment, and commercialization of innovative and transformative technologies that can capture carbon emissions. This funding is managed through OSED's Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program. This past Friday, DOE announced that 4 carbon capture large-scale pilot projects have been selected to enter into award negotiations. We will share more details for these projects later in the session. DOE is committed to ensuring that these projects create real economic and environmental benefits for the communities and the workers where they are located. This is why we have worked hard to develop a Community Benefits Plan, or CBP, framework that reflects the administration's strong commitment to provide historic support for underserved communities and to deliver on the Justice 40 initiative. The CBPs, which we will discuss in this briefing, are expected to go beyond a vision or assessment, align with the needs and priorities of impacted communities, and include actionable goals, outcomes, and propose clear metrics to measure success. As you all know, the success of our clean energy transition requires communities and federally recognized tribal nations to be consulted and engaged early and regularly. It will require transparency and accountability and new approaches to solve old and persistent problems. We know this transition presents vast opportunities to build a better economy, create millions of good-paying jobs, clean our air and water, and ensure all Americans can live healthier, safer, stronger lives. Because of this, we are truly excited about the potential for these carbon capture projects to do good for our communities, for our nation, and for our climate. Before we get into the selected projects, I'd like to share more about carbon capture technology, the Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program, and OSED's commitment to community benefits. Let's start by understanding some basics of carbon capture and storage, or CCS. CCS begins by capturing carbon dioxide before it enters the atmosphere. Typically, carbon capture equipment is placed at or near the source of emissions, like a power plant or an industrial facility. This is also known as point source capture. After the CO2 is captured, it is compressed so that it can be transported more easily. In the United States, pipelines are anticipated to be the primary mode of transporting large quantities of captured carbon dioxide. But ship, barge, rail, and trucks will play a complementary role. Currently, 50 operating pipelines span over 5,000 miles, with individual pipelines safely transporting millions of carbon dioxide annually. As DOE moves forward with implementing the carbon dioxide transport provisions of the bipartisan infrastructure law, we are emphasizing rigorous safety measures in all of our CO2 transport funding opportunities to ensure that we build on the exemplary safety record to date over decades of large-scale carbon dioxide pipeline operations. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration has statutory authority over CO2 pipeline safety and transport, including regulating construction, operation, and maintenance, and spill response planning for carbon dioxide pipelines. After the carbon dioxide is transported, the last step is to safely and permanently store the CO2 in geologic formations deep underground, or use the carbon dioxide to make other valuable products. There are rigorous requirements that projects must meet before they can inject and store the carbon dioxide. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Underground Injection Control Program exists to ensure underground drinking water is not compromised. To inject carbon dioxide for permanent storage, projects must obtain a Class 6 permit, which has strict requirements for seismicity, continuous monitoring of the storage site for issues like leakage, and post-injection site care and monitoring, in addition to significant requirements to protect water tables. Because of existing state and federal requirements, CCS projects in the United States must be highly selective about where they store carbon dioxide, running extensive geologic assessments and modeling exercises before anything goes into the ground. But why do we need carbon capture and storage? Carbon capture and storage technology have the potential to offer numerous benefits when deployed at scale. First, because it captures carbon dioxide at the source, CCS technology prevents carbon dioxide from being emitted to the atmosphere, which reduces its climate impacts. In some applications, point source carbon capture can also reduce emissions of health-harming pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. So while CCS is not designed to control these air pollutants, CCS projects have the potential to create healthier air for communities. CCS technology enables us to decarbonize our existing infrastructure by upgrading the assets we already have in the power and industrial sectors. By demonstrating advances in CCS technology in the US, we can increase our global competitiveness as other countries look for technology solutions that can help them achieve their own decarbonization goals. CCS technology also allows us to maintain good quality jobs in traditional energy and manufacturing, while reducing carbon emissions and advancing the clean energy economy. Last but not least, deploying CCS technology will be critical to reaching President Biden's net zero goals, including the nation's goal of carbon-free electricity by 2030. To achieve these benefits, CCS technology needs to scale up, and both public and private sector investment will be critical to demonstrate and advance CCS technology development. That's where the Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program comes in. Through the bipartisan infrastructure law, Congress authorized $937 million in funding for carbon capture large-scale pilot projects. The Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program aims to establish a carbon capture technology program for the development of transformational technologies that will significantly improve the efficiency, effectiveness, costs, emissions reductions, and environmental performance of coal and natural gas use, including in manufacturing and industrial facilities. Through this program, DOE aims to increase U.S. manufacturing competitiveness in the global transition to a clean energy economy by testing new carbon capture technologies at larger scales. In February, OSED released a funding opportunity announcement of up to $820 million to fund several carbon capture large-scale pilot projects. This past Friday, OSED announced that 4 projects were selected to negotiate for awards, with the potential to receive federal funding of up to $304 million. DOE is considering an additional funding opportunity announcement for this program in the future to continue funding carbon capture large-scale pilot projects. Please sign up for OSED alerts to stay updated on our announcements, including any future funding opportunity announcements. All of OSED's programs, including the Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects program, are covered by the Biden administration's Justice 40 initiative. Justice 40 creates a goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal investments, including those in clean energy, flow to disadvantaged communities. I want to highlight that the 40% refers to the benefits of funding, not to 40% of the funding itself. The Justice 40 initiative does not provide any separate or additional funding to these projects, but creates a strong accountability and transparency framework so that the energy transition can be equitable. DOE is implementing Justice 40 through our Community Benefits Plan process, which is a key to the success of each carbon capture large-scale pilot project. Community benefits plans have 4 interdependent parts. First, community and labor engagement, which seeks to involve those impacted in decisions that affect them and create projects responsive to the needs of communities and workers. Second, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, or DEIA, which seeks to help build a clean energy economy reflective of all Americans and ensure equitable access to wealth-building opportunities for all, especially for those facing systemic barriers to employment or entrepreneurship. Third, investing in the American workforce to build the skilled long-term workforce needed to power the energy transition, create quality, family-sustaining jobs with the free and fair choice to join or form a union, and ensure quality jobs are open to all Americans. And fourth, the Justice 40 initiative to maximize project benefits, minimize harms, and support the goal that 40% of benefits accrue to disadvantaged communities so that all communities can help lead the clean energy economy. Each carbon capture large-scale pilot project was required to develop a community benefits plan to ensure that local communities and workers are engaged in these projects from the outset and receive concrete benefits. And OSED will provide robust project management oversight of the CBP implementation throughout the project lifecycle. DOE's engagement with communities and tribes is beginning during negotiations, while we work with selectees to strengthen their community benefits and incorporate input. If the projects are awarded, the community benefits will evolve as the project is developed to result in measurable impacts, and those commitments will be shared publicly. Now that you have more context for the program and how it fits into our climate and equity goals, I will turn things over to Todd Schrader, our Director of Project Management, to share more details about the projects we've selected for award negotiations. Over to you, Todd.
Thank you, Kelly. And as Kelly mentioned, there are 4 projects we're going to talk about very briefly today, geographically dispersed and diversity of technology. So with that, next slide, please. So where are these projects? As you can see, they're spread across the United States, and they include 2 power plants and 2 industrial facilities. In Louisville, Kentucky, we have the Cane Run Generating Station, which is a power plant located there with carbon capture on it. Dryfork, which is a coal-fired power plant in Gillette, Wyoming. Down in Vicksburg, Mississippi, we have a industrial application of pulp and paper mill at the Vicksburg Container Board Mill. And finally, in Big Spring, Texas, we have an application at an oil refinery just outside there. So why don't we talk about what these projects collectively will do? Next slide, please. So as you can see, combined, these 4 projects will capture 500,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide each year, preventing release to the atmosphere. That's the equivalent of 110,000 gasoline-powered cars. It also includes first-of-a-kind technologies. I mentioned the Vicksburg Container Mill in Mississippi. This is the first application of that. Also, the oil refinery in Big Spring, Texas, they're going to use capture on their fluid catalytic cracking unit, which is also a first use of it. And finally, as Kelly mentioned, this creates hundreds of good-paying jobs and develops the workforce of the future, particularly through some partnerships with historically Black colleges or minority-serving institutions. So let's talk about each project in just a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. Start in Kentucky. Just to the southwest side of Kentucky is the 640 megawatt Cane Run Generating Station. And this project will deploy carbon capture at Unit 7 of this this facility. It's a natural gas combined cycle plant. You can see there who the prime applicant is. The project aims to capture 90,000 metric tons per year at 95% capture efficiency for the flue gas on that unit itself. It's an innovative technology in that it's solvent agnostic, meaning a number of different types of solvents can be used. It uses some advanced heat integrating technology developed there at the University of Kentucky. The project plans to partner with an off-taker to receive the CO2 and for use in beverage grade carbon dioxide will be the offtake. With respect to community benefits, there's a long-standing relationship between the company there and its local community and this broader surrounding community in Jefferson County. They'll have a community benefits agreement, or at least investigating the potential use of one going forward. Currently, the plant employs IBEW and steelworkers, and we expect to create about 40 to 100 construction jobs during the operation of the facility, and have the potential to expand some existing training programs. If awarded, after negotiations, the federal cost share is up to $72 million. Next slide, please. Out in Wyoming, just to the north of the Dryfork, or north of Gillette, Wyoming, is the Dryfork Power Station. It's part of the Wyoming Integrated Test Center, which is a large facility out there. It's a 405 megawatt coal-fired power plant. This applicant, TDA Research, is the prime, and they're over 30 years of experience in cutting-edge chemical processes and other related issues. Project aims to capture 158,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide a year at a capture rate of better than 90%. The capture technology itself is a low-cost physical absorbent, so a little bit different than we talked about before, and it uses some vacuum and concentrating absorption processes to capture the CO2. The station aims to use a relatively short pipeline and to store the carbon underground at the site. This is in combination with one of our sister organizations here in DOE, our fossil energy office, and some of the projects they're working out there, particularly the carbon safe project itself. As far as community benefits, they will engage with the local community and the labor unions through various means like listening sessions and town hall meetings, etc. They're committed to hiring interns from underrepresented communities and prioritizing tribal members and students from minority serving institution. In addition, this is a opportunity to provide seminars and other educational information to students at local colleges and universities to hopefully drive interest in this field going forward. Should create approximately 40 to 60 construction jobs in 2025 operations jobs, and the federal cost share, if awarded, is up to $49 million. Next slide, please. Vicksburg, Mississippi. As I said, this is a pulp and paper mill, specifically the Vicksburg Container Board Mill. The applicant is RTI International, but this is a collaboration with International Paper, SLB, and Amazon. The company itself, RTI International, has a large expertise in various science and engineering development projects. This project aims to capture 120,000 metric tons of CO2 each year at least 90% efficiency rate. Its capture technology will be put on the mill's power boiler flue gas stacks itself, and it should be transported to a site for permanent geological storage. This technology is a non-aqueous solvent, so again, a little bit different. And this is a good demonstration technology to prove its safe and safe use of this technology and drive its potential adoption more widely within the pulp and paper industry itself. As far as community benefits, they will establish a community advisory council. They also have existing agreements with various labor unions on site already, and you can see there. Should create about 90 construction jobs as the project progresses, And if awarded, the federal cost share is up to $88 million. And next slide, please. Last of our projects out in West Texas at the just outside of Big Spring, Texas, is the excuse me, Big Spring Refinery. It's an oil refinery in the area. The prime applicant is Delek US Holdings, and they're a downstream energy company with numerous holdings, particularly in petroleum refinery, which you're seeing here. The project will capture 145,000 metric tons of CO2 annually, at least 90% efficiency, and it will be installed on the fluidized catalytic cracking unit at the site. It's demonstrating second generation post-combustion carbon capture processes for this activity developed by Svante Technologies. It's a little bit harsher flue gas than some of the others I talked about. So this technology specifically developed to look at or to capture CO2 on those more difficult gases to handle. The project also has the benefit of this technology can also help decrease emissions of SOx or particulate matter. And I think there was an earlier slide that talked to that for this. As far as community benefits for the project, they will create a community advisory council to receive public feedback and concerns and suggestions from project leadership, and include representatives from numerous advocacy groups and labor, first responders, local business, local government, and various community associations themselves. The site has collective bargaining agreements currently with the International Union of Operating Engineers, and plans to partner with the unions to create this workforce going forward. They also have community partners, or working with their community partners and the union to establish the carbon capture schoolhouse, again, to train the workers of the future needed for these technologies. It's expected to create 6 operations jobs when fully operational, but during construction, about 200 jobs during that time, with a federal cost share of up to $95 million. Next slide, please. So that was some details selected project. I will hand it back to Kelly now to look at how to engage with OSED.
Thanks, Todd. As we've mentioned previously, OSED is currently starting the negotiations process with each of the selectees that Todd just talked about. These projects have not been awarded or received any funds from DOE yet. During the negotiations process, OSED will work with the selectees and discuss how they can make their projects more robust from a technical, financial, and community benefits standpoint. If the negotiations are successful, they will conclude with an award. OSED and the project teams will enter into a cooperative agreement, which gives OSED substantial involvement through the public-private partnership. After award, we move into phase 1, the detailed project planning. During this first phase, DOE will be actively engaging with our commercial partners and impacted communities. At this point, project scope will be more defined, so we will be able to share more detailed project information, including a summary of the community benefits commitments. DOE will also ensure compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, as well as the National Historic Preservation Act, including required engagement with communities and tribes. Broadly, project stakeholders should expect significant engagement with OSED and future awardees. DOE is also exploring how potential regional frameworks can bolster collaboration across partners and projects to maximize benefits, and such efforts will be aligned with the OSED engagement activities. This slide shows the timeline these carbon capture large-scale pilot projects will be following and highlights a few actions you can take today to get involved. We are currently in the bottom left of this timeline, where projects have been selected and will soon be entering negotiations with DOE. During negotiations, we encourage you to read more about the selected projects on our website, including an initial summary of their community benefits commitments. In addition, we invite local community members to attend the project-specific community briefings starting on February 21st. I will discuss these in more detail in the next slide. DOE will consider information learned during these early engagements to inform our negotiation process, which means that your feedback can help shape how projects progress. You can always share questions and comments with DOE directly by emailing engage_ccs@hq.doe.gov. I want to emphasize that we are at the very beginning of a long process. These projects will take years to come to fruition and will have to pass through 2 phases before construction activities begin. For projects that successfully get through negotiations, which sometimes can take months, and receive funding and an award, there will be additional ways for folks to get involved. Projects that are awarded will progress through a phased approach made up of all 4 phases shown in the top right of this slide. Engagement will be ongoing throughout all of these phases, and one of DOE's oversight roles is to ensure that meaningful engagement continues regularly in each phase. Between each phase, DOE will assess the project's progress and will make a decision about whether the project should receive additional funding. We call this a go, no-go review. For projects that succeed in progressing to the next phase, the activities for that phase, including community benefits, will be negotiated, and the commitments that come out of that process will be posted publicly on our website. This process repeats for each phase, ongoing implementation and engagement throughout the phase, a go, no-go decision at the end of the phase, negotiation of the next scope for the phase that's upcoming, and publication of those commitments. And finally, in addition to these steps, all of these projects are subject to the National Environmental Policy Act, which includes robust public participation processes. These processes will occur primarily in phases 1 and 2. Now that we've shared the overall timeline, let's discuss one of the next steps you can take to get involved. In the coming weeks, OSED and the project selectees are co-hosting 4 virtual community briefings to share information with the communities located near project sites. These briefings are just an early but important step in broadening engagement between DOE, the selectees, and communities impacted by these projects. Although these projects have not been awarded funding yet, OSED is committed to transparency, understanding community concerns and priorities, and rapidly integrating feedback into plans. These briefings will focus on hearing from local community members. You can register to attend the project briefings through our website, and we will put the link in the chat. If you have questions about the Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program or the specific projects in your area, please email engage_ccs@hq.doe.gov. Please also sign up to receive OSED news and updates. This is the best resource to stay in the know about OSED. We've also compiled some resources for you to learn more about some of the topics we discussed in this session. My colleague will put these links in the chat. We will also share these slides with all the registrants and post them on our website, so you will have access to all of these links later as well. So thank you. Thank you again for attending this session. We really appreciate all of you taking the time out of your week to hear about the Carbon Capture Large-Scale Pilot Projects Program and the selected projects. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us with any questions or concerns. Thanks again.